So I've got a question for you. Do you know what Wheelie, Dirge, Cheetor, Cyclonus, Predaking, Devcon, and Primal all have in common? Well, they all received votes this week for what the countdown topic will be. None of them made the list, however. So we're going to find out who did. There were a lot of votes cast. As always, I collected them together all across social media. And we're going to look at the top 10 most overrated characters in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. We're in the depths of summer and it's a hot time for a countdown list. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you're at it, baby, light them up. And hit that notification bell. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors NL, the Autobot Family, Transformers versus G.I. Joe versus DC Universe versus Marvel. And have a look for me everywhere across social media. While you're at it, why not see what we offer to you through Teespring and check out the Patreon. And this is the top 10 most overrated Transformers characters. Last week was all about underrated, and it was the wildest round that we've ever had for voting. This time, things kind of went different. We certainly have a couple that stand out from the pack, and I think some people will probably expect that. But there were others that got votes that really sort of blew me away. In fact, while I would guess that a lot of people are already going to make a guess and speculate what number 1 will be, and you're probably right, I think numbers 2 through 10 are going to be far more interesting. But of course, before we can get to the main countdown, we have some honorable mentions to do first. Based on how the votes went and the way that they were counted up, these characters did get some, but they just came in under the wire, under the cutoff for what the actual top 10 would be. So, who do we have on the honorable mentions list? Well, we have Beachcomber. I'm not sure, like, there were a couple of votes for him as being overrated. I'm not really sure, though, what the reasoning was. Nobody really gave a reason for it. It's funny, though, because he's one of them that I find a bit strange. I would have figured underrated, if anything. He hasn't appeared in a lot of popularized fiction, but hey, man, I'm just here to count up the votes. Also, for an honorable mention, we have Drift, who really became famous in the comics first, and as such has kind of had a new life in both the films and in later cartoon series. For example, during the Robots in Disguise 2015 series. It's almost like he's somebody who is considered G1 but became famous after G1, and a lot of people sort of resent him for that, and I think that's why he's considered overrated. We also had Blitzwing, Jetfire or Skyfire, Soundwave, and Galvatron. They all get honorable mentions, but none of them make the list. So you know what I'm going to do now, and what I'm going to ask. If they didn't make the list, then who did? Kicking things off at number 10 is the Decepticons Communications Officer, Soundwave. It's weird. He came in with enough votes to be considered overrated. Some people cited that he is so very boring and that really the only reason people like him is because of his cassettes. Fun fact, I like Soundwave better than any of his annoying cassettes. But a lot of people cited that he himself is boring, and a lot of people cited that he's so underhanded, you know, and gathers all this information, but does he ever use it to do anything? No. So then really what's the point of gathering the information other than being a gossip? And for that reason, he would be considered overrated and takes the number 10 slot. Number 9 takes us once again to the Decepticon ranks, but to be fair, 9, 8, and 7 all got the same number of votes, so these three are in no particular order. Number 9 takes us to, ooh, this big boy, Devastator. Now, I've often said, groups don't count. It's individual character names. I always say that for these countdowns. It's not the Constructicons that were given the votes. It was specifically Devastator, and the justification was that Devastator is considered so big, so bad, so tough, but he never won a fight, and he was never as threatening as he kind of made himself out to be. Even in the movies, he was made to be this big threat and really didn't last all that long, all things considered. Overall, it seems like the argument most people make is that this guy is just a big, overblown combiner that really doesn't do much of anything, and for that reason he takes the number 9 slot. And number 8 keeps us on the Decepticon train. Seems like Decepticons are really being seen as overvalued, overrated, and perhaps none is more overrated than the leader of the Decepticons, Megatron. And there was no specific kind of version of Megatron that was touted. A lot of people said that individually, just as like a guy who can go out and fight and battle, and as a gladiator he's tough, there's no doubt about it, but as a leader he leaves a lot to be desired. While he has a lot of ideas, rarely do they succeed, and a lot of people said, you know what, he was a failure. He had an underling as devious as Starscream, when in most cases any general would have taken Starscream out. The treason, the whole treason factor, man. But what did Megatron keep doing? Kept giving him chance after chance after chance. I guess Megatron saw something that we didn't see in him. Nevertheless, because of his failure to really be an effective leader, he takes the number 8 slot. Number 7. Now, number 7 changes things up and takes us to the Autobot side of things. Number 7 is really, it's funny, I got votes for these two characters separately, but in essence they're one character, so I put them together for Hot Rod / Rodimus Prime. Now, this is the Titans Return Hot Rod. Some people voted for Rodimus Prime, some people voted for Hot Rod, some said both, like, just count him as one. So that's what I did, I counted him as one. A lot of people said, look, he was overrated as Hot Rod because really all he did was hang out and fish with Daniel and really didn't do much of anything. He was very immature, and then when he did get involved in something, he got Optimus Prime taken out. So that's the argument that some people make, whether you agree with it or not. They said as a leader, he never wanted to be a leader. He even used to say that he wasn't as good as Optimus. It's difficult to be an effective leader if you don't even believe in yourself. That's kind of the argument that people make, and for that reason, this guy takes the number 7 slot. What about number 6? Well, number 6 is the Autobots' resident tough guy, and some people said he's fine as a tough guy, but he would sometimes take a leadership role that probably wasn't deserved. I'm talking about Ironhide. A lot of people said, look, yeah, he's tough. He's a good soldier. He's a good, like, foot soldier, you know? But when it comes to kind of being in charge, there are times that Ironhide took kind of a leadership role when really he probably didn't have the skills to lead. Maybe that was better off left to characters such as Jazz. That's what people have said. Whether you agree with it or not, I'm giving you guys the arguments that were given to me. So while people think that this guy is definitely like a good kind of bruiser tough guy, A, he's not quite as tough as he claims to be, and B, he's not the leader that he aspires to be, and for that reason he takes the number 6 slot. And number 5, the halfway mark, takes us to the skies, and I'm talking about the Autobot that was a fan-voted character created for the fans, by the fans, and is now seen as overrated because, as many people have said, this character has sort of been pushed down our throats in the fandom ever since she was created. I'm talking about Windblade. I like Windblade. I like the concept of Windblade. I kind of like her characterization at the end of RID 2015. I like her characterization fine in Cyberverse. I don't really know her from the comic books because that's not my jam. But it's undoubtable, or it's undoubtable, yeah, doubtable, that's a word, right? That's a word. Let's just move on. That it's undeniable, there you go, that ever since she was created through a series of polls that were apparently fan votes, though some people speculate how much fan votes were actually counted in her creation, it's undeniable that ever since then, she's been pushed down our throat in fiction after fiction after fiction. She's appeared in Cyberverse, she's appeared in RID 2015, she appeared in the comics, she even had her own miniseries if I'm not mistaken, as well as appearing in the Prime Wars trilogy for Right or Wrong. Nevertheless, she has kind of been retconned as part of G1. She has become a very kind of forefront character when a lot of people have said, that's not exactly what I voted for. And for that reason, she takes the number 5 slot. And for number 4, we stick with the skies, this time on the Decepticon side of things, with this guy. It is, of course, Starscream. And I was surprised that this guy was considered as overrated as he was, for the reasons that he was. A lot of people cited that, you know what, he's touted as, like, you know, this very skilled air commander. But, like, even Megatron says, like, basically, you can't lead ants to a picnic. I can't remember the term he uses, but we all know the line. Maybe it was cyber ants? I don't know. Again, a lot of times when he's in battle, he's cowardly and he retreats. And while that's a valid tactic to live to fight another day, when it comes to, like, leading an entire air squadron, that doesn't exactly show a strength of character or leadership. Plus, no one really seems loyal to his leadership. Like, you know, he's in charge of the Seekers, but the Seekers kind of make fun of him either behind his back or sometimes straight to his face. If he's really that sort of inept, then how can he be considered a good leader? In fact, the one time that he gets an opportunity to actually lead, he doesn't really do anything, and very quickly, due to his own bravado, gets obliterated by Galvatron. Always spoke as if he was dangerous, but his actions never backed up that claim. And for that reason, Starscream takes the number 4 slot. And we're at the top 3, and the top 3 are interesting. Number 3 is one that I didn't expect at all to be on this list. I never even thought about it, and then he garnered vote after vote after vote, and it's the leader of the Dinobots, Grimlock. And a lot of people said, you know, here's the problem with Grimlock. There's so many versions of him, and the G1 kind of bumbling, lovable oaf is the one that I think resonates the most with people. People said, first, Grimlock gets all the love, all the other Dinobots tend to get forgotten, for the most part. And that's not right, whether we're talking about their casting in plastic form or whether we're talking about the appearances in fiction. Some people did say, hey, we did have the other Dinobots in the War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron video game series. We did have some other Dinobots in animated, but for the most part you get Grimlock. That's it. Like, if there are Dinobots, why are we only ever seeing one Dinobot? And a lot of people had issue with the way Grimlock was portrayed in the films, with the way Grimlock was portrayed, most specifically in The Last Night, when he was kind of like a puppy, with the way he was portrayed in Cyberverse, with the way he was portrayed in RID 2015. Now, admittedly, RID 2015 was the biggest departure probably for Grimlock, unless you're talking like RID Grimlock. But like I you know, and when I say RID Grimlock, I mean RID Car Robots Grimlock. But like in terms of being a Dinobot, definitely RID 2015 was the biggest departure. He was far more intelligent there. Not to say he was the most intelligent, but far more intelligent than this guy. And then when we got him in Cyberverse, while in Dino mode, he's kind of the Grimlock that we know and love. His robot mode was so completely different and out there personality-wise that a lot of people said it's not true to the character, and that maybe Grimlock shouldn't be used so much, especially if you can't keep to the tenets of his characterization. And for that reason, the guy takes the number 3 slot. And that only leaves us with 2. And when we come to number 2, well, again, we stick with the Autobots, and we've already looked at the leader of the Decepticons, and now it's the leader of the Autobots' turn. Optimus Prime takes the number 2 slot as most overrated, with some people saying, give a different leader a chance, give a different leader a spotlight. Give the spotlight to Starsaber, or Atlas, or somebody, Metalhawk, somebody other than Optimus Prime. And if you're going to, in your fiction, kind of extinguish his spark, then keep it extinguished. Don't have him able to come back every time he gets taken out because of, like, magic of the Matrix or some other foolishness. Either keep him around or get rid of him. If you're going to get rid of him, put the focus on a completely different leader. And I suppose because of his preeminence and the fact that he kind of makes all of these big self-sacrifices, which don't mean anything if he keeps coming back, he takes the number 2 slot. And that only leaves 1. And this is the most anticlimactic number 1 that there has been, far and above, with hundreds of votes. Number 1 is Bumblebee. This is the KBB Hornets agent, who I looked at recently here on the channel. This is kind of fantastic. But Bumblebee. Now, a lot of people said specifically the live-action Bumblebee. Some people said the Transformers Prime Bumblebee, but the overwhelming majority said any version of Bumblebee. He's had too much attention for far too long. It doesn't matter what the fiction is. I've never really liked the character since I was 6 years old in the days of G1 to now at 42. I don't like Bumblebee. I never related to him. I never associated with him. When they took his voice away, that just made him more annoying. When they changed his alt mode, that made him more of a nuisance to me personally. But a lot of people said that they didn't like that his voice was taken in the movies and Transformers Prime. They found that a nuisance, and I agree with them. I get it. He's been pushed down our throats a lot. A lot of people said, look, we understand that he's iconic for the brand and whatnot, but there are so many other rich characters that can tell so many other rich stories that rehashing a Bumblebee story over and over and over is just kind of getting tired. Even though a lot of people did say that while they admit he's overrated, they still love the character too. So it takes all sorts. Either way, I think most people can agree, whether you like Bumblebee, whether you don't like Bumblebee, I think most people can agree that we've had a lot of stories, maybe too many stories, focused around this little yellow bug. And that's it, baby. Here we are once again with another countdown, finished in the books with Overrated. I think most people would have expected Bumblebee, whether you like the character or not. I think most people realize like he's been so preeminent and so pushed for so long that he is, you know, beyond iconic. He's had so many stories centered around him that maybe it's time to give some other characters some love and some of the spotlight. Arguably. I feel like some of the others on the list surprised me. Maybe they didn't surprise you, like Optimus Prime, Grimlock, Megatron, and Starscream, to name a few. I certainly didn't expect that other characters that got votes wouldn't get any more. Like Waspinator got some votes, which surprised me. Wheelie, I expected to get more votes than he did. He was just below the honorable mentions. I don't know. There's a lot of characters, and it's always interesting to see how the votes go. Would this have looked different if it was my personal list? Well, number 1 probably would have still been the same, but 2 through 10 probably would have turned out quite differently. Let me know what you think about the list, where your favorites fell, or if they even appeared on it. You know, I'd love to hear from you guys. I always appreciate it when you come by, give me some of your extremely valuable time. I know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, don't forget that there's a donate link down in the description. You can check out what we offer on Patreon and through Teespring. Don't forget, somehow, some way, each and every single day, man, you do make a difference. And I look forward, baby, to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams every Thursday night at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, baby, right here inside the videos.